Yeah, yeah. Coming up on Mental Health Marty, male sexual trauma and secretly suffering in silence. Stay tuned. What's up, everybody? Yes, it's me. It's Martina Sellers, your mental health hygienist, coming to you live and always in living color. You know how we do it here in Southern California, where the sun is always shining. Not only is it shining, we are still in the triple digits out here. It is hot. Tell your neighbor it's hot, it's hot, it's hot. But we are so glad that you are joining us today, whether you're on Facebook, Black Man Made Well, YouTube, wherever you're from. We are so glad that you are here tonight. Let us know that you're listening and where you are listening from, because we have an exciting show for you on tonight. Hope everyone is doing well. We are going to do some exciting things, but you know how we always do here on the show. We got to give you our disclaimer and what we are and who we are and what we are not. Again, the Mental Health Matters with Marty show is a psychoeducational show. And although I am a therapist, my job is to help bring you education about health and wellness, especially to our BIPOC, Black and Indigenous communities here in the United States and across the world. Why? Because we don't want you to continue to secretly suffer in silence in the shadow of shame. But this is not to be a substitute for seeing your therapist, your psychologist, your psychiatrist, your pastor, your life coach, your dentist, your doctor, anyone else. But we are to be a supplement and a part of your treatment plan. Why? Because we always want you to speak up, speak out, and live. Why? Because we have to learn how to enjoy our lives the best way we can. And that is by having a sane and healthy mind. And that's why I call myself the mental health hygienist. We got to wash our minds daily. And so if you're experiencing any type of mental health crises, please go to your nearest urgent care, because we want to make sure you are doing well. Now, how do you engage? I'm so glad that you asked. We want you to be engaging, especially in this dynamic conversation that we are having today. We want you to be engaged in the conversation. So how do you engage with us? I'm glad you asked. Definitely, if you are on Facebook, Black Man Made Well, or any of those, we want you to jump over to Mental Health Marty YouTube. Again, Mental Health Marty YouTube channel. And there, like and, subscribe. I'm so used to saying it if we're on Facebook, subscribe. And when you hear that lets you know that you're subscribing. And as you make comments on YouTube, we'll be able to see those comments. We'll be able to see those questions that you may have, because we want this to be an interactive portion of that. Brother Jonathan, how you feeling, man? Hope all is well. Are you staying cool out here with all this heat that's going on in Southern California? Again, hope everyone is doing well. Again, give us a shout out. Let us know that you are out there and that you are listening today. Today, we have a very, very, very dynamic show talking about surviving male sexual trauma, overcoming societal stigmas. Do you know that 1 in 6, if not 1 in 7 men have experienced some sort of sexual assault or sexual trauma in their lives? And definitely this number gets even smaller when you're looking at some statistics, when we're looking at middle school, when we're looking at high school. 1 in 6 of these young men have experienced this type of trauma. Tanya, so good to see you. Thank you for always joining and being a faithful listener to the Mental Health Marty Show. So great to see you out there in virtual land. And part of the trauma of this is that too many men secretly suffer in silence in the shadow of shame because of the stigma that comes along with that. Because we never want men struggle with that they have been victimized, that they have been taken advantage of, and often at young ages. And too often they are forced to keep quiet because too often when these type of situations happen, our masculinity is then questioned. And then, did you bring this upon yourself? Did you somehow do something? So instead of being the victim, you also become the cause of being victimized. And that is something we have to discuss, especially in our Black African American communities. And tonight, I am so excited to have this brother on here. It is his first time on the Mental Health Marty Show, but I can tell y'all, just is not going to be his last. He is an author. He is a survivor. He is an advocate. And this young man just has so much going. He's on a tour. And so we definitely want to make sure that you check him out. Daryl, shoot up the flyer or the book cover, if you will, please, so we can definitely see that. And he's talking about, he's the author of this amazing book called Echoes, The Stories of Male Survivors Overcoming Sexual Trauma. You got to go check out this book. It is on Amazon where you can get it. We want you to be a supporter because here on the Mental Health Marty Show, we want everyone to support all our guests with whatever they have. So I'm so glad to have on the show for the very first time, none other than author and advocate himself, Robert H. Marshall Jr.
Hey, what's up, man? You said my whole government. We out here.
We use the government name on here. Government name.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Man, I am so excited that you are on here. I had a chance to read about a third of your book last night and today. And can I tell you this? Listen, I was blown away. And I want to share and first say thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being transparent and for even sharing this story with all of us. And trust me, I'm going to be using it in my therapy practice. I'm going to make sure that we have several copies. Can I buy directly from you so you get all the proceeds?
You can come right here and you can.
That's right.
Go to my website, roberthmarshall.com /we survive,
yes.
Or you can just talk to me directly and we'll make it happen.
That's right, because we want to make sure, because we know Amazon takes their percentage, but we want to make sure you get all your monies.
I want all the coins.
That's right. Get all the coins. Yeah, but man, listen, welcome. Well, I've been excited. I promise you, I haven't been able to sleep last night because I'm like, tomorrow's going to be an amazing show. And I'm not going to lie, I wrestled with putting other people on here, but your book and story was so powerful that I called the other people and said, my bad, I won't have you on next week because the guest I have needs to be all by himself.
I appreciate that. I love that. Man, I'm so excited. Yes. I'm so honored to be on here myself. I was really excited. To be honest, I haven't really been doing interviews on any podcast, but when you asked or when you approached me, I'm like, of course, we have to do this because I love the work that you do. I'm actually a big fan of what you do, and I'm just honored that you have little old me on this show. Anyone who calls themselves a mental hygienist, you gotta. Okay, all right, mental hygienist. It was the tagline. I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's do
But
it.
man, I wish I could take credit for that. My homegirl, Nisa Shanae, shout out to Nisa, who's one of the original Kurt Carr singers. We lift our hands in the sanctuary, all that. So she and I have been friends since we were in high school. And she was just like, you're a mental health hygienist because we got to wash our mind. And so she coined that phrase for me. I just took it over.
Listen, you better go ahead and get it trademark, copyrighted, all that, man, before somebody
You ain't never lied.
Listen,
you ain't never lied.
To be inspired. They like to be inspired.
They like to steal. That's what we like to do.
They're just inspired. Just inspired.
Listen, Robert, tell us about you, who you are, what you do. And then, I don't do a lot of homework. A lot of times before my shows, I'm telling you, y'all don't judge me, but I got questions for you because you inspired me. I got questions. Man, Brock, what's happening, man?
What's up, Brock?
So those who may not know you, talk to us and who you are and all this great stuff.
Listen, my name is Robert Marshall, and I am so honored to be here. I am a male empowerment coach, and I help boys and men overcome adverse and traumatic life experiences. And we have an organization called I Am Man that focuses on providing support to fathers who did not have fathers, men overcoming sexual trauma, underserved, underrepresented student groups, and men returning home from incarceration. So that's what our organization does. And we do that through conferences, events, through seminars, through products, through services. And right now we're on tour with the Echoes movement, and Echoes is specifically focusing on empowering male survivors to overcome the negative impacts of sexual trauma. We do that through humanizing every man's experience. And so that's what we do. We believe every voice should be heard. Every story deserves to be heard and seen. And so we're creating a platform where we do that. On top of that, I'm a husband. I have 3 amazing children. I have an amazing Puerto Rican queen. She's my wife. We've been married for about 10 years now. Never thought that was going to happen. Okay. I can't believe I said 10 years, right? It just blows my mind.
10? Are you even old enough to have be in a marriage for 10 years?
Even when you said young man, I'm like, you know what? I take that. I'll take it.
Yes.
So, I've been married for 10 years. On my own personal story, I'm a survivor of sexual trauma, rape, molestation, as well as fatherlessness, bullying. I grew up in the backwoods of a space called Brunswick, Georgia. Very, poverty. My friends were either incarcerated or dead or something. It's the same city that Ahmaud Arbery was killed in. So that's where I am from. Yes. So to give you a little context, I grew up in the racist South. And when I was about 17 years old, I packed my bags I packed 2 bags and $1,000 to my name. And I told my mom, I said, hey, I'm moving to Chicago. And I've been in Chicago ever since. I'm well studied. Yeah, well, so from there, I was the first person in my extended and immediate family to go to college, go to grad school, pursuing doctoral work. And I'm in a space now where I am passionately leading, and I serve in a number of capacities in my community. And I'm just excited to be doing this work and to be empowering men and providing men the space and the platform to begin their journey to wholeness. Yeah.
Let me congratulate you, because I get what it means to kind of be in that first generation and leading the path of getting degrees and multiple degrees. And a lot of people don't realize the work that is involved in that. And when you're a lot of times, I had an amazing opportunity of going to UC Berkeley, but having a great school like that, when you're the only one in a room of 1,500 other students, a lot of times you're one of 2 Black folk that look like you, and the other one was a female. And so you're fighting from that perspective. Jonathan, I'm like that. What resilience? That's right. being a pillar of the community. Jonathan is an educator on the college level as well. And so he understands what it means when Black men go to college, when Black men have a graduate degree, when Black men pursue higher education and get a doctorate and all that involves. And so one, I salute you and congrats, man. And being a father and what that means and juggling all that and then overcome. I'm chiming in with Jonathan, overcoming unforeseeable and what feels like unsurmountable obstacles in your life. And can I go just churchy one quick second?
Let's go.
You know, we can't help it. We can't help it. When the gospel all up in us, you was talking the gospel all in your book, and I'm like, see, he disguising it. But you know what the devil meant for evil, God will always turn it around for our good, because he said, and we know, come on, somebody, that all things work together for our good, who love the Lord and who are the called according to his purposes. And the calling is so heavy and drips on your life. Go right ahead, jump in, preacher.
So listen, and one of my favorite scriptures, two of my favorite scriptures, if I was going to add something to that tag, is
sir.
For the present suffering time is not worthy to be compared to the glory that shall be revealed. Understanding that everything that happens in my life is not God doing it. The pain and the suffering that happens in my life is not God making it happen. But what God does, he is so good and he loves me so much that the present I go through, he makes it work out for my good. And the pain that I experience today is a prophecy of the promise and the hope and the glory for my tomorrow. So if you're asking God, why am I going through this? Why did this happen to me? Why? Listen, God didn't cause it, but I promise you, God's going to do something with it, and he's going to turn your mess into a message. He will take the broken pieces of your life and make something beautiful. One of the other verses, you took me here, so I'm running back out of this real quick. But one of my other scriptures is, for we are God's workmanship. We are his masterpiece.
Yes, that's it.
And all the time we look at our lives and we ask, like, yo, what's going to happen with all the messiness of my life? And especially if you're a survivor of sexual trauma or you've experienced some type of traumatic experiences in your life, and you you say, man, what is, like, my life is a mess. You look at, and oftentimes you look at that you have more problems than you have solutions, more bills than you got money, more failures than wins.
Talk to us.
And you're like, yo, what is my life going to mount up to? But when I think about that scripture, I think about a stained glass window. If you ever look at a stained glass window, it has all of these little different pieces of glass, pieces that make up something bigger. And when you give God the broken pieces of your life, he's able to sit there and make something beautiful. But ultimately, when you look at stained glass windows, they're not only good to look at, but they also tell a story. And so God wants to use the broken pieces of your life, not only to make something beautiful, but to tell the story of his grace, his goodness, and your overcoming. I want somebody to know even your scars have purpose. Even but anyway, I digest.
I wish I had a Hammond B3 organ and somebody put me in A flat. Listen, I love it, man, and I love what you said. So much resonates about that. Making the masterpiece. See, Tanya's churchy too. She said yes and amen. Come on. Yes. And how you've reframed. Reframing is so important, imperative when we're talking about healing from trauma. And you reframed that and said, he took mess and made it a masterpiece. He took the mess and made it a message. He took the test and made it a testimony. You know, that's being real churchy. I'm trying to get out of there, but you done pulled me there. We're going to back right back out of it.
Come out.
Hit it, come out. You talked about, you know, whenever you're talking about trauma, I applaud you because you're creating one of my passions. I'm going to share be a little transparent with you, Robert. I hated men's ministries. I grew up in the church my whole life. Yes. I grew up in a domestic violent household. So my although I know my father loved me and loved us, he didn't have a father himself. He didn't know his father, and so, I had to get past, and that took me some time to get past all of that. And so you talked about, and I hated men's ministry. So the very thing that I never knew this passion I have now for helping Black men heal. And you are creating, and one of the things that I hear Black men say all the time is we have to have a safe space, void of judgment, of shaming, and all of that. Talk to us about your journey in getting to that place where you felt safe, because you said healing is the journey, but wholeness is the destination. Talk to me about this, turning that journey into a destination for you.
I'm so glad that you quoted that. It's funny that you quoted that saying. That is the bedrock of the work that I do. And to be honest, I'm gonna be a little petty. I'm gonna step out of the preacher mode for a minute. I was listening to an interview with somebody who was very famous, and they used my quote, and I was like, "Wait a minute!" I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "Now they didn't quote me, but I know that that's an original. So wait a minute." So anyway, I'm glad that you read that.
Yes, sir. I wasn't playing.
Man. So to be honest, I hated men's ministry as well. And for me, most people don't know, most of my degrees are in educational leadership. And for me, for me, this journey into discovery of manhood, masculinity really came from out of work and retention that I did in the educational setting. My master's degree is in education, higher education, leadership, and administration, with an emphasis on retention. So anytime I had a mentor who brought me on, and I had the opportunity to do this mentorship initiative with all men in the higher education setting. And I was like, okay, great, write up my master's work, but there's a difference between practice and theory. And so I realized then when I started dealing with these young guys, these college-age young boys, I noticed that the issues that were impacting them were not just the things that was going on in the classroom, but it was the things that were going on outside the systems and the external social structures that nobody ever spoken to in their life. I started creating a framework and a curriculum. Curriculum development is my area as well. So programming, curriculum development, and we grew the program from 10 guys to over 100 young men in less than a year.
Wow.
Now, mind you, they were coming on a Friday afternoon after classes from 10
See,
to
people
100.
don't understand the vast growth of that. And we're talking about getting young men on a Friday afternoon, and that speaks to who you are and the environment that you created, that it goes from 10 to 100 in less than a year.
Yeah. Not only that, we were able to take that program, and my mentor at the time was able, he showed me how to get grants. And so he wrote a grant, and this grant we had a 99% graduation rate in a community college of Black and brown from out of this cohort. And we were able to get funding to spread it to other community colleges within the Chicagoland area for them to use our model. And so from out of that, I realized, now, wait a minute, purpose was born out of that. Because as a survivor, one thing that was taken from me was my option to choose who I wanted to be. And
say that one more time. Say that one more time, because I don't want people to miss that.
As a survivor, and I use the word survivor, but as a survivor of sexual trauma, the first thing that is taken from us is our power to choose who we want to be and who we decide to be. Oftentimes, when that power is stripped from us, our voice is stripped from us, we live into a narrative that does not belong to us. We live into a narrative that was superimposed on us because somebody else's brokenness and their issues, their traumas. And so we are the we became that scapegoat. So one of the things I realized is that I had the opportunity to choose who I wanted to be. And
That's good.
began my journey. This began my journey to wholeness, dealing with these young men, and made me look at my own life and redefine narratives and definitions. And one of the reasons why a lot of men are in the space that they're in, because they don't have a foundation that's solid enough to stand on to establish who they are as men. The problem with most men is that we don't know what it means to be a man. If we look statistically at the men that are living, who are adults right now, we are the fruit of the fatherless generation. We are the fruit of laws and legal systems that promoted women having the opportunity to get public aid, but the father not be in the space. We have over 50% of Black men incarcerated, as also my Latino brothers as well. There's so many statistics that I can rattle off that have created this web of generation of toxic masculinity and unhealthy masculinity, to the point where it's demeaning, it's demanding of us, and we don't know who we are. We don't have a firm foundation, so we build our definitions of who we are on systems or on definitions that don't serve us and are not true to the nature of who we were created to be. I ask this question.
They were never designed to serve us. Yeah.
No, and I ask this question all the time. Most men, we define who we are and our worth based upon what we do and what we have. And so what we do is number one. And so when we meet somebody new, what's the first thing we ask? Hey, what's your name and what do you do? We ask what their job is. What they do.
Yes.
Because we then automatically, psychologically, we measure them up. We measure ourselves against them. Well as to define our value and theirs, and then what we have. So listen, we don't have a lot. What we have, we got the house, we got the car, we got the stuff, we got the clothes, we got all that. We're socialized
because that's how we define success in our communities, by how much you have
and our internal worth. My stuff equals my worth. But this is what I ask all the men that I work with: if you define yourself by what you do and what you have, what happens when you no longer can do it, and what happens when you no longer have it? This is, and if your definition is defined by these things, number one. So, for instance, men, if I can be honest, you know what? Our sexual conquest, by the size of our genitals, by how we do it, how we make them feel, right? What happens when you get to a point? Right? What happens when you get to a point and you might have erectile dysfunction? What happens when you can't do it anymore? What happens if something hits?
They end up on my couch
anymore, right?
Yes.
Yes. This is your show.
Robert, one of the first things you good, man. I love it. I love the passion, because you just one of the things I always ask, especially Black men when they come in, I say, who are you? Yep. And they give me, just like you said, their pedigree. Well, I can read because I read the intake form, but who are you? And they still give us, well, I'm the son of, no. I get that. Who are you here in your heart? If all those things were stripped away from you, who are you? And I agree with you. I found about anywhere from 75 to 80% of those men, when that question really resonates within them, they're in full on tears, because they say, I don't know who I am. I don't know. So let's go here. First, let's. When I was reading your first story, because you're sprinkled throughout the book, and you talked about this at the age of 4. That was your and so from the age of 4, then you talk through about your barber and these other 9 men that have somehow sexually abused or you, and how even in our community, I love what you said. Too often we teach stranger danger, but we don't teach danger within our own families, danger within our own churches, danger within our own social organizations, and these quote unquote trusted people in our communities. Talk to us, Robert, about that for you, and a little bit of your story that you have.
So, I was a lot of the abuse that I went through happened within the confines of the church. Not only just the church,
Yes.
but around family members and people who
Mm-hmm.
were trusted. The truth is, many of us,
Yes.
we don't have training and information on sexual trauma, or because we don't talk about sexuality and sexual things in a lot of Black and brown
Yes.
communities. We just kind of,
Come on.
just let it happen. But what my story is, a lot of the people I say in the book who should have been praying for me started praying on me. And one of the
wait. We got to define that. Instead of them praying,
praying for me, P-R-A-Y.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They started praying, P-R-E-Y.
E-Y. There we go. Yes.
So one of the first abusers that I had, or experiences, was at the age of 4, when one of my cousins, had to be 13 years old at the time. I was on the top of the bed. He was on the floor. He opens up his pants and he pulls down his shorts and he says, "Hey, Robert, come put your mouth on this." That was at 4 years old. From that moment on, that, and even statistics say that once you have experienced a sexual traumatic experience, you are more prone to experience more from the more unconditional. And so that started at the age of 4. My barber, we moved to Georgia, and I did not know at the time, I was 7 years old at the time. And one of my best friends at the time, his brother had just came home, and they were having a come home party. I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
I was 7 years old.
Yes.
He cut my hair, and he cut my hair, my brother's hair, and his brother's hair.
Yes.
And so he was, after he cut their hair, he sent them outside to go play, and I was the last head to get cut. And so we were in his parents' room in their double wide trailer, and all of a sudden he put on this video, and now I know it was porn. And I remember seeing this, and as he was cutting my hair, he was watching this porn. Back in the day, we called them flicks. So he was watching this flick.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I remember seeing this man, I thought was peeing on the lady. I was 7 years old, didn't know much. I said, "Why is he peeing on her?" And I didn't really understand what I was watching. And he said, "Boy, that's not pee, that's cum." And he said, "You can do that too." And I said, "What?" And then that's when the Pandora's box opened. He laid me on the bed. I remember the color of the sheets, and they were burgundy and gold sheets, the ones that everybody had back in the day. And
back in the day,
listen, he pulled my pants down, went forward to give fellatio, and nothing happened. I was 7 years old. So, of course, nothing was going on at that time. And so then he said, and I'll never forget the words. He said, "I guess yours hasn't come in yet. So she said, so do what I did to you, do it to me." And that's when that started. And I remember from that moment on, he taught me how to please him and until he had his orgasm. And then that continued on into other things throughout the years. So that started at 4 years old, all the way up to 4 to 20 some odd years of age. I had another instance where I think it started in 5th grade, where it's a pastor I talk about in my book, a pastor who actually, I remember we were at this concert, this church concert, and I grew up in the South, and it's a little different. My house wasn't too far from the church, but I had on this cream suit. I was sharp, boy. I was sharp.
Yeah, you were sharp.
I was sharp. And I was walking, I came out the church, and I was on my way to walk home because I wasn't old enough to drive. I was only in 5th grade. And I think about, why was I walking home by myself? But anyway, I was walking home by myself, and he pulled, and I knew of him. He knew me. It was a small town. And he said, "Hey, Robert, I'm starting a church. I want to show you the building where it's going to be. I want you to be a part of it." And most people don't know, I'm a musician as well. I sing as well. And so he said, "Hey, I want you to be a part of my church." And he said, "Let me show you where it is. You want to see it?" I said, "Yeah." So he had this red pickup truck. I get in the pickup truck. He takes me to this building, and it's this abandoned building, but everyone kind of knew what it was. He said he was fixing it up. And so he all of a sudden we're walking around, and from that moment to now, I don't remember how, but all I remember was being put on the table and being penetrated for the first time in my life. At the age in fifth grade. So at fifth grade, I can't remember how old, 10, 11 years old, around that age.
You're still very young.
Yeah, still very young. Still very young. And I didn't know at the time that he was married with children and a pastor in my city. And so that lasted from fifth grade all the way to 19, 20 years of age. And most people, you're listening and you're saying, and this is why it's so hard for some people to tell their story.
Yes.
Because you say, well, you got to a point where you were old enough to kind of understand and comprehend. There is a legal term that is called sexual grooming. And what was happening to me, I was being groomed. I was being groomed to become his or their sexual person that they would go to for whatever they need at the time. So sexual grooming is when you are groomed or grown into, and your victimizer becomes, you become comfortable. You become, it becomes convenient. It becomes comfortable, and it's you become comfortable with the abuse, where it feels like it's normal. It feels like it's normal.
And that's the purpose of the grooming process, because then they try and buy you gifts and you wonder. And so parents, listen, if a man or something is buying all these unusual gifts or always volunteering, you need to have an eyebrow up and say, wait a minute, why is this going? Are they potentially grooming my child right in front of my face? And I just think they're being super nice as opposed to they're grooming me to take advantage of me, so that they're covering up their own, and I'll say it this way, their own insecurities and all these other things, because that's a whole nother conversation we can have.
Listen, that's how you begin to identify when you have people who are, and this happens with coaches and pastors. And, like one of the red flags is if you see someone is always trying to get your child to get by them and their child and themselves, right, and individually, that is a red flag. When you start to see where they show them a little bit more attention than other people, other kids, that's potentially a red flag. Not saying that that's everybody, but these are some of the signs that you would see. Now, people knew at that time I didn't have a father, so this was happening under the guise of you're my little brother and I'm your big brother. So when people it didn't seem weird, because it was, he's a musician, he's mentoring him. This looks on the outward side, it looks like, he's taking him under his wing. No, he was taking me under. That wasn't that. But there was one other, instance that I haven't talked about in this book, and I haven't talked about publicly, but this is the first time I'm going to talk about it on this show.
Exclusivity.
It's not mentioned in the book. My wife knows about it, and she's challenged me multiple times on why I didn't say anything. So I was also, at the age of 13, I got into a relationship with a teacher, as a female teacher at the time. I was 13 and she was 23 years old. And male perpetrators are very different than female perpetrators. And men who have experienced sexual abuse from women, it looks drastically different. And the problem is when you are groomed or prematurely sexually initiated by an older woman, it looks radically different. Men or boys are praised for it. Praised because they are seen early initiation into masculinity and manhood. So for me, growing up as a church kid, I knew on a basic level that having sex from the church perspective with a male was wrong, but having sex with a woman was acceptable.
Come on.
And it was praised. And so she encouraged. And so she became my we became good friends, and then at the age of 13, and from the age of I was with her. It happened from 13 all the way to 18 years of age. So I want you to look at my life. The majority of my life was spent being sexually stimulated by older men, older women, people. So all of this stuff was going on at the same time. So I could one day, he would pick me up, and it would be at 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. He would go to a track or a gym or a secluded place and have sex with me, and then be done. Like, it'd be outside, it'd be it'd be anywhere. But then with her, it was different because it was more socially acceptable. She was very nurturing. She was very giving. She brought food to my house. She made sure that my homework was done. She made sure, she was there. She was a little bit more, it wasn't as overt. But I did not realize until I moved away. She, from the age of 13 to 18, she really controlled my narrative with sex. And I loved her. I really did. I loved her, and I didn't think. And it became a love relationship because she was all that. She made me feel like nobody else loved me the way she did, and nobody else was going to be there for me the way she was.
That's
right.
And that's it became the difference of that too.
Yeah, because oftentimes men is more so sex secret. You don't tell anybody because we will get in trouble. With women, it's the same. It's a little different because it's nurturing, it's mothery, it's girlfriendly. It's all that at the same. It's all that at the same time. And she was a bona fide preacher as well. And so she was a bona fide preacher as well. And so I remember before I went off. Now she helped me fill out my college application. If it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have gone to college. So I never thought of her as someone who was sexually abusing me. But when I look at it, I had to go back and say, I was 13. She was 23, a teacher and a preacher. Here's the point. I didn't realize 13 to 18 years old, when I moved, before I moved to college, she had a conversation with me, and she said to me, the Lord said, you need to marry me before you leave. And I remember looking at her and saying, and I prayed about it, and I said, I love you, but not right. Like, this is not right now. And she was adamant to me marrying her before I left. And when I moved away back to Chicago, when I got to Chicago, and she could no longer physically control me with sex, then she started, she tried to start playing other mind games. But as I started to mature, I realized, she's playing games and she's trying to control and manipulate. And after a while, when I woke up to the reality of that, I was like, whoa, like, this is what this is. So being sexually groomed, stimulated. Also, I'm a survivor of being sexually, I hate to say this word because this is a really bad issue, but sexually trafficked as well. And this is what I mean by that. It's not, trafficking is not always somebody getting abducted or being, or being in this dark place and somebody beating on you. No, I was literally passed around from preacher to preacher. They would say, hey, I had him. You can have him too. Invite him to your church. This is, and just mention different things, and this will get him there. And so sometimes I would get invited to spaces as a young man, and they would say, well, you know what? So-and-so said that you're good at bed. So-and-so said that you did this. So-and-so that you said to do this. And then the door opens. And so I was groomed in this highly sexual, sensual, and spiritual surrounding where it was all distorted. And so I did not know how broken, how hurt, how confused I was, because not only was my choice to choose who I wanted to be was taken away from me, my ability to think for myself, my ability to believe in myself, it was either torn down or built up by the people that
Yes.
groomed me and took advantage. And these are just some of the big things. I'm not, in some of the book, I don't mention all nine, but I don't mention all the pastors and all the revivals. I didn't mention the
Mm-hmm.
principals that, the school
Mm-hmm.
principals were part of this
Mm-hmm.
unit as well. I didn't talk about,
Mm-hmm.
some of these
Because that's a
one-offs.
tight, believe it or not, a tight knit community of secrecy.
I call
And
it
you
the
say in
secret
your book what I
society.
love. See, it is a secret society, and you say this: silence is our enemy.
Yes.
Because not only that, you're also groomed that you are to quote unquote respect your elders, and that these people, especially when you talk about a pastor, a principal, a teacher, these were all authoritarian type of people. So it's almost your word against theirs. Who are you
And
at
actually,
in the fifth grade?
yes,
Yes,
yes, yes. The
yes.
preacher,
It- it-
there's
it-
a
and,
part
and,
of my book there's a part of my book where the preacher, that was the longest one. Him and the teacher were the longest lasting
teacher.
two. They had the teacher, both her and him, were going on simultaneously, and so
Hmm.
hers was relational. His was strictly sexual and pleasure for him.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I remember I got to a point where I got 16 years old and I said, listen, I wanted to be free because I thought
Hmm.
I was the one with the issue. I thought I was the one
Right.
with the problem. And so I went to my pastor at the time and I told him, I said, hey, this is what's been going on. And I'm coming to you because as a young man, I grew up holiness.
Yes.
I understood sin. And I thought I was in an equal sexual relationship and partnership with him.
Hmm.
And I
Mm.
said at that time, I wanted to be free. So I'm thinking
Hmm.
I need to be free from homosexuality. I need to be free and not
Hmm.
realizing, no, that it's a form of sexual abuse and manipulation. And
Hmm.
I was in the situation. I went to my pastor
Yes.
and I said to him, hey, I want to be free. Um, and what stemmed it was we had just gone to a leadership conference in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it was, I'm free, so I'll say it. We were at
Yeah.
Bishop Bruce Parham's leadership conference at the time.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I stayed back in the hotel because I was tired. I didn't have much money. I was 16. I was young at the time, didn't have much. So
Yeah.
I was just happy to go. And
Right.
I didn't know he stayed back. What the preacher did was he went to other people who were in our group and told them that he did not want to stay in a room with me because he heard that I was gay. And
Mm.
uh, I did, and I was like, what? And so I stayed away from him. But because I
Hmm.
didn't go, he knew I didn't go. He came to my room, and for the first time, that's when I experienced rape, where it was, hey,
Mm.
I don't want to. I told him, I said, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, I want to be free. I want to be delivered. I want to live for God. And I remember him saying, you are who you. He laughed at me, and he said, you are who you are, and there's nothing you can do about it. And
Mm.
he went to forcefully pull down my shorts and shoved himself inside of me, and just continued to like, and
Hmm.
I'm all but like in tears asking him to stop. And he kept saying, and I remember when I asked him to stop, he said to me, he said, he said, stop playing. You know you want this work, and I'm almost done.
Hmm.
Let me finish. And when he was done, he looked at me and he said, oh, you hate me now. You hate me now. You hate me now. He said, well, let me tell you this. If you ever say anything, nobody's ever going to believe you because everybody knows
Exactly.
it's your word against mine. So
Exactly.
right
And
after
that
that,
is so manipulative. Yeah.
yeah, I
Go
told
ahead.
my pastor after that. I told my pastor like what was going on, and my pastor, he was young at the time, and he went back to him and told him what I said. I was working at that time. I was working as not a fast food, but a buffet at the time. And
Hmm.
he came with two other guys to my place of work at 16 years old. Came and he planned for me to come outside. And him with two other guys, he said, I heard that you've been spreading rumors about me And he said, keep my fucking name out of your mouth, because if you don't stop spreading this rumor shit, I'm not with that gay shit. He said to me, he said, if you keep talking, I know how to put your body in a place where nobody can find it. And
so not only that, you were threatened.
I was physically threatened at the age of 16. And I didn't say anything from that day until years later after I was married.
Right.
When him and I first interacted, and I forgot to mention this, he said to me, when the first time in the abandoned building, he said to me, after he was finished, he looked at me, and I was, fifth grade. He said to me, you like that, didn't you? You like that? And I said, I don't know. And he said, well, something's wrong with you. You have a spirit of perversion, and you need to go pray. When we were in Raleigh, North Carolina, in this conference, he said to me, he said, now, because we still had to go to service, he said, now you need to go pray and repent and get that residue off of you, so nobody will pick up the residue of your sin in church.
And so now we have spiritual abuse now on you on top of that. And that's what so many people fail to realize and understand, the complicated layers that come with that, especially for young men. And that's why that believe it or not, I believe that a lot of male rape, sexual abuse is so underreported because of that. You got the statistics.
Listen, especially when I start off my events, I throw the statistic. The statistic is 1 in 6 before the age of 16, and 1 in
16, 4,
and 1 in 4 after the age of 16.
Yes.
Now here's the thing: are reported.
Yes.
That's the key word. And I asked the question in Black and brown community, how many of you have reported anything to the police? Because the relationship between the Black and brown community and police have never been great. And so we grew up in a time where we stay, whatever happens in this house stays in this house. And especially,
and we say it,
abuse. Yeah, because you don't talk about it.
You're right. Shut up, and we don't talk about it in the church. We don't talk about it or in the homes, because one, we don't know how to properly deal with that, and we think it's going to be just. And can we say that we get too busy worried about what's going to happen to our family name, as opposed to saying, "Hey, Robert is in trouble. I don't give a damn whatever else is going on. We are here to support and rally behind him, because this is not what a 5th grade needs to be experiencing. And anyone who has done this needs to be totally, can I say, just thrown under the jail, shot in a pinky toe and cut off and everything else." But that's just Marty going probably too far.
Now here's the funny thing about these stories is these are my lived experiences. When I put out the book, because there's quite a buzz about this book. When there was word that I put the book out, that I was putting the book out, I had an opportunity of having a conversation with the preacher. And it took everything within me not to put names in this book. When I tell you, I was ready. Sure. I was ready to tell it all. And I was challenged not to do that, and I listened. And he called me. We had a conversation. And it's funny because almost all of my abusers, I had the opportunity to talk to and ask them why. Why? The barber apologized. You know,
I read that in your book.
Right. The only other person, because I didn't mention her, was the teacher, because I didn't mention her. I didn't see it as sexual abuse until I started really doing this work. But all the other abusers, I had a chance to talk to. And most of them apologized and said, you know what, it shouldn't have happened. Now, whether they apologized because they were afraid or they apologized because they were sincere. The one person who did not apologize was the preacher. And when I had a conversation with him about a year ago, when he heard that I was coming out with the book, he said he in our conversation, number one, he wouldn't come. We were FaceTiming. He wouldn't get on the FaceTime because I think he was afraid that I was going to use it against him. But he also,
Mhm.
it was one other person on the call with us who encouraged me not to put his name on there. And he kept saying, the preacher kept saying, well, and it was offensive and it was triggering. He said, man, I don't know who you're talking about, but you got the wrong guy. You've got the wrong guy. You've got the wrong guy. And I was sitting there like, now, I've been in sexual relations with this person from fifth
From
grade
fifth grade.
to almost 19 years of age. And I've got the wrong guy. And you know the part that hurt? The part that hurt was not that he wasn't willing to admit it. The thing that hurt is that for a moment I had to ask myself, is what he's saying true? Did this really happen?
Yes, it's a mind game because it's power and control, because it's in that it's really considered DV in so many ways, an extension of that, because it's about power and control, to the point when you look at a lot of even domestic violent relationships. I shared that's kind of a, they say the person who is the victim will return anywhere from 7 to 10 times. Same thing, because they have power and control over you. Yes, at a grown man, I should be able to have power and control over someone, but for the good and to help. I don't want to use the word groom, but to support them, nurture.
Grow,
that's
support.
it. That's it.
Yes.
So yes, and to encourage with appropriate boundaries and respect in those regards.
Can I say this? Can I say this? For any man that's listening, it is normal. Like and now that I have 2 sons, I have to be very transparent.
Yes.
I was actually very jealous of my sons. I became very jealous of them because I realized that they had the father that I always wanted.
Yeah. And that's good.
I had to come to I really got jealous because I said, it's not fair that they get the love, the support, the presence that I always wanted. And I realized what fueled that for me was wanting to be affirmed, wanting to be loved, wanting to be wanted, wanting to feel closer. And let me tell you, as a father, I learned it is natural. Let me say that. I want y'all to hear me as I put me on the single screen. I want to look right in that camera. Listen,
come on, dictate.
It is natural for a boy to want to feel intimacy with a man in a healthy space. It is natural for a boy to want to be hugged by his father, to be kissed by his father, to be affirmed by his father, to be touched by his father, or men who protect him in his life, to bring security, to bring affirmation. What happens with most boys who don't get that, they look for it in other ways, not realizing that this is part of their natural makeup. That is the reason why they have a father. The father is supposed to affirm, it's supposed to comfort, it's supposed to protect, it's supposed to have healthy intimacy with them. What happened with me and a lot of other boys is that they got those things with strings attached to it. And they got it from people who took advantage of the deficits in their life. And now they're trying to figure out how, and let me also say this. They were preyed on. And I got to say this. This is one of the reasons why most men have a problem with being committed in relationships, why they don't talk in relationships, why they are not fully present in relationships. Because when they were supposed to learn intimacy, language, when they were supposed to be developed in these areas, communication, they were stunted. They were traumatized in these areas. They learned how to be sexual. They learned how to perform. They learned how to think. This is why most Black and brown men are seen as sexual objects. We are seen, nobody talks about that. We are seen as sexual objects by every race that exists. We go to another country.
Yes.
They want us. No matter if you're gay, transgender, heterosexual,
Doesn't matter.
you're a black man at any point. You are seen as a sexual object or as a deviant. So you're either sexual
Yes.
or you deserve to be locked up. There's really no in between. There's no in between.
I hear you.
And the reason why this is one of the reasons why this is perpetuated is because many black and brown men never had the chance to fully develop internally into the fullness of who they were supposed to be. And it's caused these traumatic blockages. And what trauma does, it stamps you and it starts your growth. So what happens is, as men, as boys, we physically grow. We get the houses, we get the cars, we get the muscle, we we become attractive, but we still are stunted emotionally, sometimes psychologically, and sometimes spiritually, because we're not giving the freedom to explore the full extent of our humanness, our humanity. So we learn how to define ourselves by what we do, because that's what we've been taught. Our value is in what we do. Our value is in what we have. And we have to start peeling back in order to begin the process to heal.
That is so true, because when we understand the health, and I love how you put that, the healthy role of a father in the lives of their children, especially their young boys, it is a game changer. It is such a game changer, because we then have healthy societies. Do you know that the grade levels go up tremendously? Them getting involved in gangs goes down tremendously, just by a father showing up in the lives of their sons. The grade levels of the daughters, they say, go up almost 2 whole points, because and especially in math and science, because the dad is active and shows up in the young lady's life. And for young men, that they don't get on drugs earlier, that they have a healthier relationship with sex because of dad being in their life. So the roles of fathers is so imperative. Healthy fathers, that is, and we have to make sure for and those who have single households, that you are not just allowing any man into the lives of your children, because there is a code that can happen, and that secret society that you have so explicitly described, that you will go under your nose, that you will never ever know until you, like Robert, you have had the courage to come out and say, this has happened to me. Yeah. Definitely. Listen, real. It really is. For those, Daryl, put the book up one more time. For those who came in late, you need to get this brother's book. It is Echoes, the stories of male survivors overcoming sexual trauma. You have it here with Robert H. Marshall Jr. RobertHMarshall.com. Get the book directly from him, because we need all the money to go back to him, as he can just make this be a bestseller and top seller. Listen, this is what we do, y'all. You know how we do on the Mental Health Marty Show. We support everything, because we believe in recycling our dollars and quit giving it to other people. Now you're talking about your tour, because I got to have you. If you haven't planned your LA trip, I'm gonna have to go on a fundraiser and get you out here, my brother, because you are too powerful.
Go ahead, bro. I'm sorry.
Go. No, I said you're just too powerful. We got to get you everywhere. I want to be on the tour with you. I just want to introduce you, man. And be like,
LA is on the docket, man. It's on the docket. We want to come to LA, and so we've been on a tour. So a part of the book, to be honest, I wrote this book years ago, but I never could release it because I wasn't ready.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
And as I started telling my story, so many other men from around the world, Africa, Europe, Russia, all types of places started inboxing and emailing me, hey, this happened to me too. And so I realized it would be very selfish of me to put out a book that only included my story. So we did a call for writers, and there are 14 other men whose stories are ingrained throughout this book. And they taught, and this book is also an audio book as well. So if you're not a reader, guess what? You can get the audio book as well.
Love it. And thank you
I
for
was
making
able
it
to
for men.
yeah,
And I said because a lot of times men, and I love how you did it because it's written for men because men don't like these long chapters. I love how you thought through that. That was the brilliancy of that, then making it audible and all that. Listen, I love it. Your story needs to be told. Brock, I agree with you with that told. But go ahead. I cut you off about this, but go
it's
talk.
perfect. So our tour date, we're looking. So right now, the next tour date is in Atlanta. And we're in Atlanta October the 8th and the 9th, the week, the 7th, 8th, and the 9th. So in Atlanta, I want to put this out here. I haven't made it public. We're doing We Survive live tour where we allow both male and female survivors to come into a safe space where we have a facilitated conversation and help people begin their journey to wholeness. So it's a real raw conversation.
Wow.
And we
do you have a venue already?
That. I do have a venue in Atlanta. Yes, we have a partner that's there as well, and we're working on that. But here, and I'm gonna say this for this show, I have not made this public, and I am actually doing a mastermind, a 2-3 day mastermind in Atlanta for people who have either experienced sexual trauma or who are men who have experienced some form of traumatic life experience. There is a mastermind that I'm doing. It's private. It's exclusive. I've not put it on Facebook. I've not talked about it. It's been invitation only. So we're only allowing 8 men to be in this mastermind. So we have right now. I haven't advertised it. We have 4 slots left. To attend this mastermind is $375 for the weekend. You stay in the house with us and we talk about strategies and we come up with, we do our research. We talk about strategies.
Wow.
And we talk about creating pathways of healing and wholeness for men of color.
Okay,
so
I want to host a mastermind. I want to host a mastermind in 2023. All this, Robert, we're talking because as much, we talked offline how much we did. Church ministry men's ministry was not, but man, I love this. I want to be a part of this. I want to help heal because I know too many men in therapy. That I do that have not gotten past their sexual trauma. And I'm so glad that you walked back and grabbed that 4-year-old Robert and that 5th grade-year-old Robert, and you went back and held him and told him it's going to be all right. And that you now have this amazing marriage, and that I praise God for your wife who supports you, who's there. There's no judgment, and you guys are working. Yes, I love it. Atlanta is the perfect place to dismantle rape. Come on, and abuse of our Black men. Thank you so much for doing this, Jonathan. Jonathan, I'm gonna need your help when we bring Robert out here. Can we go to your university? I got some university places we can go to, but we need to make this a huge event. And
actually, to be honest, we talk. So I do tours. I also lecture at colleges and universities about male sexual abuse and what we do here. I've been an adjunct professor for some time, educator for some time. So we're in those spaces as well. We presented at colleges and universities all over the world about our research. And I
would get some therapists out here too, and we get some folks to give you some CEUs on that side. We got a whole plan. Listen, go ahead, Robert.
The last thing, I don't know how long our show is, but I also want to announce too that we're also working on a documentary, and I am so excited with these guys. We are working on a documentary. Listen, I have 3 years worth of content, worth of events, worth of conversations that we have. We've had the privilege of having that's all been professionally recorded, and we are actively putting together a documentary called the Echoes documentary, and it's going to continue to fuel this movement. This is a movement. We're not just stopping. It's not just a book.
The creator in me is going crazy. As you get this documentary, we need to do a stage play.
We're already working on it. Listen, we're already working on it. It's a stage play. Listen, we got 14 stories, but I'm excited. We are going to be shooting. Yeah, we're going to be shooting also we're going to be shooting this upcoming month. We have 27 male survivors and advocates coming to Chicago at the end of this month to begin to shoot for the marketing campaign to raise awareness about male sexual abuse. I'm just telling all my business on this show, man.
You are. I love it. I love. Keep telling. I'm coming to Chicago, man. We come hang out, and we're gonna get some pizza.
Listen, that's happening. So we're gonna begin this campaign. I'm so excited to be working with a very creative man to make that happen. Also, so we released the book, and people are like, "Yo, we need a workbook." The workbook should be done within the next couple of weeks. So the workbook is coming out. The documentary is coming. We're touring. We are doing a lot of stuff. So, and I want people to come. I want people to be a part because
I love that.
Even if you're a woman, and when we do these events, we do invite women. And the reason why we do this, we invite women because we invite male survivors and the people that love them. And the reason why we invite the people who love them, because there's something that is called secondary trauma. And oftentimes it is the people who love men, rather it's their mom, their wife, their husband, their significant other who love them, right? They are the ones that have to deal with the brokenness of the individual they love, and they don't know how to help them. So we provide, and we've had workshops on how to support your male survivor, how to support people that you love that experience sexual traumatic experiences. So it's a full-on thing. But the tour, we're coming to LA, we're coming to Florida, we're coming to so let me tell you, we're going to be in Miami, we're going to be in LA, we're coming to Atlanta, we're coming to North Carolina, we're coming to Detroit, we're coming to there. So it's a whole movement, and I'm excited. And I would be remiss. I don't do this work on my own. I have an amazing team, a team of men who are part of this book, who we come together and we provide solutions. I'm not the smartest one in the room. Some of them are brilliant expositors, people who are amazing. And it's really become a brotherhood. We started a group on Facebook called the Survivor Circle. And it is crazy. This group has grown to literally over 100 men from different places around the world who are all male survivors. Who are all male survivors. And they share their stories, they talk about their issues, and it's on Facebook. But this is stuff that we are physically doing. We're active, we're going. We're not just talking about it, we're doing the work in a very real and deep way.
Wow. Okay, Robert, tell us one more time, because man, I love it. Where can we get your book? And y'all, you got to come back soon. There we go. There it is, Echoes. And tell us again your website so we can go on there and get it.
RobertHMarshall.com. It's Robert H. Marshall. Oh, I forgot about the song. I didn't tell you. Oh, RobertHMarshall.com. When you go, so I actually wrote a song, and it's called The Survivor's Anthem. So it's called Break Free, but we call it The Survivor's Anthem. You go to my website, you can hear the song. It's a song specifically for male survivors of sexual trauma. It's really dope. You can find it on all digital platforms or wherever you find your music. It's called Break Free by Robert Marshall. We call it The Survivor's Anthem. If you go to my website, roberthmarshall.com, don't forget the H, roberthmarshall.com/wesurvived. roberthmarshall.com/wesurvived. You'll be able to see kind of the work that we've been doing, and you'll be able to get the song, download the song. I promise it will bless you. We do this work with men and boys. And so I'll be remiss with boys. Important. We do preventative work. And so I wrote a children's book called Little Brown Boy. And Little Brown Boy talks about affirming. It's a book, children's book that affirms. So I've written about 6 books so far. 6 books so far.
Wow. Little Robert, I'm so excited.
Outside of Echoes is one of my best-selling books. It's in Amazon. It's in Target. It's in Walmart. It's in Barnes and Nobles. It's pretty much any place where books are sold. Little Brown Boy affirms the skin color and the esteem. It esteems little brown boys around the world. We have
I love
characters
that.
that go into different spaces, and they love it. And we just really look at providing a safe space for boys to be seen, to be heard, and I'm excited about that as well. So you can go to my website and see all of that stuff.
Wow. Okay, yeah. I'm about to get a copy of everything, Robert. I need a copy of everything. So, man, I can't thank you enough, man. You are so dope, and I appreciate. Again, I applaud your vulnerability and your willingness not to continue to suffer in silence, but to speak up and to speak out so that you and your family can live. My tagline with everything that I do, man. And so, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Mental Health with Marty. And we are so glad that Robert was here to share his amazing story. We didn't even have time to really get into, listen, we just barely scratched the surface. I definitely want you to go and support that. Jared, we're going to go kind of almost to the end, but we don't want you, if you're experiencing any type of trauma, the thing we want you to do, you can always text some of the resources we have available to you. If you're experiencing any type of trauma or crisis, you can type crises to 741-741. You have some other things. Listen, if you're looking for a psychologist, psychologytoday.com, good therapy, therapyforblackmen.com, wonderful practice there, good therapy. MarcelConsulting.com, which is our corporate office there, or you can dial 988, which is the new mental health hotline. And also I want to encourage you to call to mentalhealthmarty.com, mentalhealthmarty.com, and we can definitely help you out in those areas as well. I want to do a quick shout out for real quick there. Let's go to Daryl, the Atlanta event. I'm going to be in Atlanta, Georgia on Saturday, August 27th. Shaquille O'Neal, Boys and Girls Club of Henry County. I'm so excited about that. And it's called Ignite My Fire, a youth mentoring event. I have this amazing opportunity to speak to these young people at the Shaquille O'Neal's Boys and Girls Club on Saturday, August 27th in Henry County. And next week, we're going to have part 2 of surviving male sexual trauma. So definitely, we are so excited about you being here. Again, we cannot thank our guest, author, advocate, writer, songwriter, preacher, you name it, father, husband. He's all that, author. Please go back and make sure you support roberthmarshall.com. But in this journey called life, we're going straight to the end, Daryl. We don't want you to continue to secretly suffer in silence, in the shadow of shame, like so many men do because of our toxic masculinity that we have. But we want you to speak up, speak out, and live. But always remember to enjoy your life. We'll see you next week. Take care.